In this finite mathematics and calculus problem, we're asked if the supply and demand functions for a commodity are given by the two equations, what is the equilibrium price and what is the corresponding number of units supplied and demanded. And looking at this, we are given two equations and we can solve for either P or Q first. I'm going to solve for Q first because it looks to be the easiest since it's out front in this equation and we don't have to do as much math to get it. So our first equation, we're going to rewrite this solving for our Q. We are going to add Q to both sides and then subtract 10. That way we get Q by itself. If we do this, we're going to get a P minus 10 is equal to Q. So this is going to be our equation for Q. Now we are looking at the second equation. We want to solve for our Q again. So we're going to have Q is equal to 300 divided by 2P minus 10. Now we can set these equal to each other since we have a Q right here and a Q right here, and the Q's equal to each other. So setting these equal to each other, on the left we're going to have P minus 10 is equal to 300, and then we are going to divide this by 2P minus 10. Now from here we want to always get rid of the denominator because the denominator makes it harder for us to work, so we are going to multiply both sides by 2P minus 10. If we do this on the left side, we are going to still have our P minus 10. We're going to keep this in parentheses, and then we're going to have our parenthesis for here 2P minus 10, and this is set equal to our 300. And the reason why we only have a 300 on the right is because the 2P minus 10s cancel out. Now we have to do some factoring for this left side. And to factor, we are going to multiply these two together. We're going to multiply the p's together. So this is multiplying to this, and then we are multiplying this together, and then we're going to do the same thing where we multiply this, and then we multiply this, and then we're going to add everything together. So in doing this, we have a 2p squared minus 10p. Now we're looking at the bottom part. That was for the top part. We are going to have a minus 20p. And lastly, a plus 100, because we'll have a negative 10 times a negative 10. Remember, when we're factoring and we're doing these parts, we are multiplying these two objects together that we are denoting, and then afterwards we're just adding everything together. This is going to be set equal to 300. Now, we want all of our constants on one side to set it equal to 0. That way we can use the quadratic equation to solve for this. So we are going to combine like terms. We notice that this negative 10p and this negative 20p have a p inside of it. That means we can combine them together. We are going to have 2p squared minus 30p, and if we want to bring the 300 over to the left side so that we get 0 on the right, we're going to have a negative 300 and we're going to subtract it from both sides. If we do this, we are going to be left with a negative 200, and this is set equal to 0. Now, before we do the quadratic equation, we could simplify this a little bit by multiplying everything by 1/2. If we do this, we are going to get a simpler number. We're going to get p squared, a simpler equation, minus 15p minus 100, and this is equal to 0. Now, the equation that we're going to be using, again, is the quadratic equation. This is the negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, and this is all happening over 2 times a. When we look at our equation, we are going to have our a here, we are going to have our b here, and lastly, our c here. If there's no number in front of the variable that we want to find, it's always going to be denoted as 1. So that's how we would solve for that. Now we can just plug everything into this equation. Our b is 15, so we're going to have a negative 15 with a negative. This is going to leave us with 15 plus or minus the square root. We have our b squared, so we are going to have our negative 15 squared, and this will have a minus 4 times our a is 1, times our c. Our c is negative 100, and this is all under the same square root, and then all of this is being divided by our 2 times our a, which is 1. Now to simplify this a little bit, we are going to have our 15 plus or minus the square root, and then we're going to have our 15 squared. To find 15 squared, we can just go off to the side and write 15 times 15. We'll have 5 down here, because this is going to be 25, because 5 times 5 is 25. We're going to do 5 times 1, which is 5, add the 2, so we have 75. And next, we're going to look at the next part. So we have 1 times 5, we're going to get 5 down here, and then we're going to have 1 times 1, which is 1 here. So when we do all these together, we're going to add these, and we're going to get a 5. We're going to add the 5 and the 7. This is going to give us a 12, so we're going to carry the 1 over here, and this will give us a 225. So 15 times 15 is 225. And we can plug this back into our equation. Now we want to have a negative 4 times 1. This is going to be negative 4. And then we're going to have negative 4 times negative 100. And this is going to give us a positive 400 because two negatives being multiplied is a positive. So this is all under a square root, and this is all over 2. Now from here, we need to combine our 400 and 225. So we'll have 400, 225, and we're adding them together. 5 plus 0 is 5, 2 plus 0 is 2, 2 plus 4 is 6. So we are going to get in our square root 625, and I can just rewrite this over here as the square root of 625 all over 2. Now we should plug this into a calculator, and plugging this into a calculator, we are going to find that the square root of our 625 is 25. So we're going to have 15 plus or minus 25, and this is being divided by 2. We're looking for the p here. This is the price. We can't have a negative price, so we're only going to be using the positive number. That means we will only be using the plus part here. So we are going to have 15 plus 25, and this is being divided by 2. We can add these two together. 15 plus 25 is going to give us 40. We can divide this by 2. So our p is going to be equal to 20 once we divide the 40 by 2. P is equal to 20, so we have found the equilibrium price. The equilibrium price is 20. Now we have to find our units. This is given to us as Q, so we can plug into our equation our price to find our Q, since it's the only variable we don't know. We're going to choose this equation, and the reason why we're doing this is because it is just simpler. We'll go back and check our work by plugging it into the second equation afterwards. So we know our P, that's going to be 20. We have our negative Q, and this is equal to 10. We are going to just add Q to both sides, that way we can get Q by itself, and then we are going to subtract 10 from both sides, so that way we don't have a 10 on the right side. If we do this, 20 minus 10 is 10, and this is set equal to a Q. So this is going to be our Q, and that is how we would go about solving for it. Now that we have our price and our units, we can check our answer by plugging it into this second equation. Our Q is the number of units. This is 10. This is being multiplied by 2 times our price, which is 20, minus 10, and this should equal to 300. So our 2 times 20, these two, is going to be 40. We're going to subtract 10, and 40 minus 10 gives us 30. So we're going to have 10 times 30 is equal to 300. And if we multiply these together, this is 300. So we do have 300 is equal to 300. Our work checks out, and that means that we found the correct answer, 20 for our price and 10 for the number of units. That's how you go about solving for this problem.